Welcome back, everyone. You are watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to the channel, just please consider doing so. You can click on the subscribe button there. And if you would like to donate to the channel, hopefully there's something here at the channel you find useful or valuable. But you can click on any of my videos or the same link you can find on the home page of the channel, and it will take you to my Buy Me a Coffee page. And once you're there, you can choose if you wish to donate to the channel. It helps me in raising funds to purchase and rescue more of these machines, because when vintage machines don't get overhauled or they don't get repaired, people lose patience with them, and they don't always offer them up to anyone. They just dispose of them, which is really sad. So anyway, I want to continue procuring more of these vintage machines, getting them onto the workbench, and then showcasing them for all of you so you can watch as I go through the process of restoring them. And any donation you consider making would be helpful. So thank you. And without further rambling, let's talk about today's video is really about, it's one of those things that's kind of odd, but when you have a machine, when someone has had a machine, sometimes people who sew with the machine, they'll get the settings just right for their purpose, and then they won't really alter them. They may not, for example, change stitch length. Okay, this has happened. It happened on a Kenmore I worked on recently, like a 1970s Kenmore, where I thankfully was able to bring that back because the sewer had used it for at least 2 decades and never changed the stitch length, and not even once. And it also happened on, it's happened on other machines before, where something just didn't get used often, and it gets stuck, basically from a lack of use. Now, most of you, if you've seen any of my videos, really, when I talk about this little feature right here, many machines have, not all, but many of the vintage machines will have the ability to lower the feed dogs. Sometimes it's either up or down, or sometimes it gives you different levels. But the point is to lower the feed dogs so that you can do things like free motion embroidery. Originally, a lot of people used to darn or patch fabrics, and they needed to be able to get the feed dogs to stop moving the fabric for them. And that's why this feature is, in fact, the adjustment is often right here. On some of the European machines, Italian neckies, for example, it's in another spot. But in fact, I have now restored this feature, so I don't know if you noticed, but the feed dogs just went down there. And I bring it back, and now they're up again. You can see they've come back up. So in fact, I never am surprised when this device is stuck, because it's almost never used. But I want it to be ready to go when a client gets one of these machines that I've restored. Now, on this machine, I saw something that often, with a lot of machines, it can be stiff, but I had never had one so firm that it won't move. So I'm going to show you what my method is for doing this. Now, we're going to use a little more force, but before we do, this machine is in aesthetically pretty darn good shape. You know, very little, there's a little bit of decal loss on the front here, but I'm going to I've taken just a remnant fabric. You can use denim, something maybe thick or heavy, and I've rolled it into multiple layers, and then I'm going to sort of curl it around. It looks like I'm bandaging it. This little piece here. By the way, this of course is this is a knurled end of what is the pressure bar pressure adjuster, and I want it to be able to be used. Well, right now it's like super difficult to get it to move. So the first thing I did, I took this fabric that I'm showing you, I wrapped it just like this, and I went and got a pair of needle nose pliers. Usually needle nose pliers are pretty strong, and I'm messing around with it, didn't work. So what did I do? I went for a pair of vice grips. Now, not the biggest pair of vice grips in the world. I don't need that. I need something this size. I have vice grips in different sizes that I use around the house. But what I'm going to do is, you want to keep this nice and bandaged, because you can turn it without the fabric with the vice grips, but if you do that, you're probably going to scratch up this lovely paint finish, and there's really no need for that. Okay. Now, some people, they may make vice grips that are coated or padded. I don't have a pair, and I rarely need them, surprisingly, for my vintage work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find, and with vice grips, those of you who've used them before know you have to you really have to make sure that you adjust them in a certain way so that when you lock the vice grip onto the device you're trying to move, there we go, you hear that click, now it's locked. I'm going to push. Oh, okay. I don't know why it is, but vice grips have a way of working when, and you can see it, the vice grip was wrapped, I was cushioning the machine, and so now I could feel it loosen, and now, look at that, right? And I can loosen it. And this, of course, was designed to be adjustable this way. We can keep coming up. This one has a fairly long amount of travel and threads. So, what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of my valve oil here. Normally, with things that are just slow moving, haven't been oiled in a while, I just use sewing machine oil. I don't need penetrance, but in this case, I'm going to put a little bit of this valve oil here. It's a mineral oil like sewing oil, but it has some solvent in it. Okay. The reason I'm doing this is because this piece has probably not been moved. I think this was probably set back in the day and somebody just sewed with it, right? But a future sewer may want and need to adjust it, so I want it to function. So what I've just done, get my, you see some little crud coming out of there. What I've basically just done is I've put some of that valve oil, and I'm basically, now I'm spreading it over the threads of this piece, okay? And that's all I wanted to do, was to clean off. Basically, this piece was oiled when it left the factory, but it's been a very long time. And I've explained to many of you in earlier videos what happens when sewing machine oil is really, really old. It gets a little gummy. It takes decades, right? But it gets gummy. Okay, so the only thing left to do, I'll just take, again, I didn't flush this thing with that valve oil. That wasn't needed. I just wanted to have that valve oil break up some of the old gummy oil. I mean, you can also break up gummy oil with heat, but I don't want heat here because I don't want to damage this lovely finish. Now, what am I doing? I'm going to take my sewing oil applicator there, and I just sort of put some oil over the threads, and now I'm going to be turning it, and this is fine, right? It's moving freely. It's a happy piece. And I'm just going to leave it not totally fully back down, because I don't think I need quite as much pressure as the prior sewer had. But there you go, right? So that's a way to take on something that's being stubborn. And if, like I say, there are times when I might use needle nose pliers. Sometimes I might use just, a good grip of my, my hand, and sometimes that works. A smaller hand actually might be better. My hands are so large, it's hard for me to get any good torque on that. But if you have to use any tool at all other than your hands, please remember that you want to protect the thing that you're grabbing a hold of, because pliers and vice grips, by their nature, they have a rough side so that they can get a grip, sorry for the pun, onto the piece, but we don't want to damage the lovely paint finish here. And so just got a little bit of fiber there. Anyway, that is again, you want to protect your machine, but you gotta get it overhauled, so you have to get in there and start moving things, and that is a safe way to do it. Some people may have it other ways. Some people may even use wrapping painter's tape. If you have a different method for this, please put that down in the comments so we can all learn from you. But this is the method I have used. And then you'll notice that when I had this wrapped, right, I'm keeping my device above. I don't want it all the way down flush laying on top of the machine because that would scratch the machine, and that was the whole point of this exercise, was to protect the machine's gorgeous paint. Another thing I could have done was to take, let's say, here's another piece of fabric. I could also take painter's tape and I could literally wrap it around, the machine like that. I think I have a roll in there that's green. It doesn't matter what color it is. Painter's tape is good because it does not, it will pull off. You don't want to leave it on there for a year. But if you use it, it should not stick to the machine and create problems like the way masking tape can. And so you can tape the area here around. Again, you're just trying to protect that gorgeous finish. And then, of course, with the fabric, I don't know if tape would be enough to protect the actual piece here that I was trying to turn, right? So that's why I went with the fabric, and it worked. So again, just another, hopefully a tip that hopefully you won't need this, but if you do, it's an option for you, and hopefully that will help. So thank you all for watching. We will see you in the next installment. Getting closer, and I'm really hoping to get the machine put into the table today. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.